My main effort is to complete the program for the people. And I made a program, in the campaign. And all the items of the program is going very well. This is my main concern. Not to renew or not to renew. I'm not thinking about it now.
When will you decide?
I would like to ask you a question. When can you decide the President of the United States? Now?
You can't.
You can?
No.
Well, we have the same.
But they're writing books now called Egypt After Mubarak. Books.
In the United States?
Yes.
America. شوف احنا
Look, we
بلد كبير
are a large country
ومستقر.
and we have stability here.
عندنا دستور
We enjoy stability. We have a permanent constitution. It has been amended for a number of times. And if you recall that once you asked me in one of your interviews, is that the president being elected only by the parliament means some sort of incomplete democracy. At the same moment, I was ready to propose amendments to the Constitution, and we amended 34 articles. That was unprecedented. This is in the interest of stability, in the interest of ensuring people about the future. It is not a small country on which we take decisions just like that. It is a stable country, and it will remain a stable one after Mubarak and after the man who comes after Mubarak.
Speaking of that, there are those who believe that you would like for your son, Gamal, to come after you.
هذا الموضوع عمر ابني ما فتحه معايا إطلاقا.
This was never raised between my son and myself. He started his career in banking with Bank of America, then in London, then he returned to Egypt. And he was against joining the party. And it was only after a long effort that he joined the party. It is not on my mind to have my son inherit me. As well, the choice and election of the president is open to the population in its entirety. It is the decision of the population to elect who would represent people. It is not for me to decide that. It is the decision of the people to elect the person who they trust. Who would that person be? Well, we have a long time. We have still 2 years to come.
Do you think he's ready to be president?
No,
I will ask him, or you can ask him. Don't ask me.
You will not dissolve Parliament. You will not dissolve Parliament anytime soon.
There are many rumors.
Yes, that's why I ask.
And there is freedom of speech. People say that the parliament might be dissolved, this or that might be appointed. The government might be sacked. I don't care about these rumors. I never dissolved the parliament except once on a decision by the Supreme Constitutional Court. And the more good opposition you have, the better, the more strong and the stronger our NDP members would be. But rumors are there. Somebody may say before Ramadan, somebody may say after Ramadan. I hear these rumors. like any other person.
But then why don't you simply say, I will not dissolve Parliament?
أنا ما أقدرش أقول لك
I can't say that I will not dissolve the parliament. There might be some circumstances. I don't have any at the moment, but there might be some circumstances that call for the dissolution of the parliament. But at the moment, there is no single point that merits the dissolution of the parliament. The dissolution of the parliament becomes imperative only when there is a pressing demand.
Mr. President, this weekend you go to Washington. You will be there Monday and Tuesday. You will meet with the President and the Vice President. Characterize where the relationship is with the United States today under President Obama.
الرئيس أوباما
President Obama,
بعد الانتخابات
after the elections
ونجح في الانتخابات
and after winning the elections, contacted me on phone,
مرتين
and that took place twice. And when he went to the White House, he contacted me. And when he came to deliver his speech from Cairo here, it was an excellent speech that assured the Arab and Muslim countries and people. And it was a clear and loud message to all Arab and Muslim countries. Before that, there was some sort of unease and concern with the previous administration. But I also met him in Rome. During the G15 meeting, there was not a long time to talk, but when he visited Cairo, we covered all the issues and how to handle the same. And I did find him understanding and a man who wants to listen and to take informed decisions. And he's open to all opinions. And I advised him to listen to everybody. And after that, you will make a full picture upon which you can take informed decisions. And I'm very optimistic on the steps to be taken by President Obama. He is well balanced in all his speeches and addresses, particularly within the context of accelerating violence, particularly in Iraq, and the concerns in the Muslim countries. Once again, I think that the Obama Cairo speech was an excellent piece of work.
It created new opportunities.
فرصة جديدة للسلام.
Do you mean a new opportunity for peace?
Yes. What did it accomplish, the speech?
أنت طبعا سمعت الخطبة.
You know, of course, the speech, and you listened thereto. It assured the Muslim world, because before that, their feeling was that there was a great and extreme bias against the Muslim people by the previous administration. And that created great concerns among the Muslims, particularly the leaders of the Muslim countries. But with the Obama speech, it became clear that he is not against Islam, that America is not against Islam. This is quite important. So much so that Al-Azhar, the rector of the Al-Azhar University, wanted to confer the honorarial doctorate to President Obama, but the time was so short that he couldn't do that in time.
There is always time. Do you sense that he is about to launch his initiative for the Middle East?
President Obama is collecting information, and he sent George Mitchell a number of times, and he conferred with us, and during each time we explained our position, and each time he comes to Cairo, I see him. He visited Syria, he visited Saudi Arabia and other countries. And this is an endeavor to grasp the issues facing the region, which is a good thing. It's much better than taking a decision without listening to the countries concerned. It might damage these countries. It might as well damage the reputation of and the image of the United States. And this is what happened. Take, for instance, the decision to go to Iraq. And that despite the fact that there was no mass destruction weapons. And going to Afghanistan as well. Russia stayed 8 years in Afghanistan. However, Russia did not achieve anything, and the Russians admitted to that fact. And there was a general from the Russian Federation who came to me, and he said that they stayed with all kinds of weapons for 8 years in Afghanistan without achieving anything. And wait till we see what the Americans would see. And I oft repeated that, but the U.S. administration was adamant on something decided a priori.
Do you think the United States should get out of Afghanistan?
Let us talk with President Obama first. It's much better than delving into it. But I can tell you the following. In Iraq, there is a grain of stability, but that will take time. The situation in Iraq is not an easy one. And I told everybody there, when Mr. Bush said that I will imbibe democracy into Iraq, I said, I wish you could do. Every population has its own nature, culture, customs, and history. You cannot come and make some a carbon copy of each population as that of the American people. Even the country, even the peoples in this region do differ.
My impression is you were never comfortable with the Bush administration.
That's why I did not visit the United States since the year 2004. I didn't visit the United States since 2004. There are certain rumors that I am not visiting America, or I was not visiting America because of issues related to political reform.
Do you think the Bush administration was right to promote democracy in the region in the way that it did?
No. Look. We do not accept pressures in politics, in interior domestic politics from any administration, with due respect to all governance. We do not accept pressures on the pretext of domestic reform. It has to be homegrown. Reform has to be homegrown. And it is what the people demand. This is one issue, but to accept pressure from an administration or another, no. This pressure might be against the interest of the people. I respond to the demands of the people.
Do you believe President Obama has a different attitude and idea publicly about democracy and reform than President Bush? Has he said so to you?
I can't say exactly that, but I think that President Obama understands well what was done by the previous administration. Democracy is there in Egypt. We have freedoms that were not there before. We have an election of the president. We have freedom of the press. We have about 600 dailies and weeklies, give or take. We have improved and strengthened the powers of the parliament to even do away with the government. We are doing reforms based on the demands of the people, and I think President Obama does understand this very well.
It is said that he will not publicly discuss human rights. He does not want it to be an issue, but that he will bring it up in private.
Look, please, your concept of human rights is a merely political one. Human rights are not only political. You have social rights. You have the right to education. You have the right to health. You have the right to job. There are many other rights, and we are doing well on these fronts. But we are not absolutely perfect. And nobody is perfect. We have a Human Rights Commission. We have supervision on that. And he or she that would not abide by law is brought to the book before a court of law. We have a strong supervision being on the administrative front, an administrative supervision or a police supervision, and there have been many sentences against people who have breached human rights. It is not merely a political concept, it is social, it is health, and it is amalgamated as one.
But as you,
and we observe them.
Much is written about the fact that in the election, the last election in which there was more candidates, that since then you have moved away and that you have cracked down on the Muslim Brotherhood.
Let somebody read the Egyptian constitution to you and the amendments we have introduced therein. These people whom you are talking about cannot form a political party, because our constitution maintains and stipulates that a political party shall never be based on a religious basis. They cannot form a political party. And this is part and parcel of the constitution as amended by the people. But the Muslim Brotherhood are there as MPs, as individual MPs within the parliament. We have about 80 of them.
Do you fear the Muslim Brotherhood? Do you worry that they are close to Hamas, they're close to other Islamic extremists?
I know that they have some contacts with them. They have contacts with Hamas. They have contacts with Hezbollah. These are well known, and they have contacts with many organizations. They have contacts with people of the International Muslim Brotherhood based in Geneva and elsewhere, but we can contain this, and properly so.
You're not worried?
We do not fear such things.
The main subject between you and President Obama will be peace in the Middle East, Israel and Palestine. Tell me where that is. Tell me what Egypt's role is. Your own General Solomon has met with Hamas, he's met with Fatah, he's met with Israel. Are you making progress?
We have a major role in this issue. We share boundaries with the Palestinians. We share boundaries with Gaza. Jordan shares boundaries with the West Bank. The stability of this part of the world means the stability of the Arab region. But Failing to solve this issue will jeopardize the stability of even the globe itself. We are trying to solve the problem between Hamas and the authorities in the West Bank because this is quite an important. We should fill the gap here. We should bridge the gap. Because unless we reconcile their differences, there will not be stability there. There will not be stability even in Israel. Violence will recur. We are doing our best to bring about stability, without which and without solving this issue, the facts on the ground will be very, very challenging.
Are you making any progress?
Sure, we have made progress, but it will take time. You know, for instance, dealing with Hamas and the Palestinian Authority does take time, and what retards the process is some sort of external intervention. For instance, we were just about to facilitate the release of the prisoner Shalit. You know that he's a prisoner.
Right. Held by Hamas in Gaza.
We were just about to secure his release in our custody and solve this problem, but external interventions, outside interventions, hindered that. But we are working on that, and in collaboration and cooperation with the Germans.
It is said that the Israelis, you have said this, or suggested this, the Israelis made extra demands and prevented you and Egypt from gaining control of the prisoner so that you could return him in exchange for Palestinians. That the problem was that you had a deal and Israel made additional demands. Is that true?
You have a good deal of truth in what you said. We had agreed on the release of a number of the prisoners, but at one point in time, Israel added certain terms and conditions that impeded progress. That is in addition to external interventions. So we are doing an effort, and the Germans are willing to join hands, and we do welcome them in order to secure that. The deal or the agreement was to take care of Shalit, and that Israel would release a number of prisoners, and when this is done, we will hand over Shalit to the Israelis. We are still following this. Our intelligence organization is working on that, and we still have hope to conclude this on a good note.
It is also said that you wanted to bring together Hamas and others, and that Syria prevented you from having a conference.
I don't want to mention any country in particular by name. But I know that there are certain interventions by other countries. I cannot say that Syria is the one that impeded things. You know that. I know, you know, and I know that. It is clear. The contacts with Iran are clear, and there are constant contacts between them. Hezbollah in Lebanon, Hamas in Gaza, and you might have heard about the demonstrations that were staged in Tehran a couple of days back ago. They say, no Gaza, no Lebanon. We can spill our blood for the sake of Tehran. No Gaza, no Gaza. And no Lebanon. referring to Hezbollah. But we could sacrifice the Iranian would sacrifice their lives for the sake of Tehran. But they don't care about Gaza, they don't care about Lebanon. This would give you the bottom line of what's going on.
Do you believe Iran plays a destabilizing role?
I'd like to tell you something about Iran. Iran, in the internal problems that they have in their country, they say there's some interference from other countries abroad, from foreign countries, not from Iran, that pushed the Iranians to hold these demonstrations and the strikes and all these things. I support them. If there's something, if there's some party interfering in Iran, we assert them. And at the meantime, however, I tell Iran, I say to Iran, if you complain of the interventions from external forces in Iran, I would say to you, don't interfere with the home affairs of other Arab countries, like Lebanon, like Hamas and others. Since you complain of this external or foreign interference, so don't do it with other countries.
There is this idea in this region, the Middle East and the Gulf, that Egypt and Iran are competing to be the dominant regional force. Egypt, Iran.
First, we do not compare ourselves to Iran. Iran is not an Arab country, to start with.
It's in the region.
So it's in the region, the Gulf areas and Arab countries. This means they are trying. They are attempting, but we know our effort is known. They are trying to dominate certain areas, but they will not succeed in this. We are capable. We are not competing with them. And our role is well known in the region. However, we will not compete with them about the region. It seems to be that people are thinking, have some wishful thinking saying this.
Do you think Israel will allow Iran to have a nuclear weapon?
Look, I met the Prime Minister of Israel, and before Netanyahu, and Olmert before, and the Minister of Defense in Israel, and the President Shimon Peres. All of them are against nuclear weapons in Iran. But our understanding is that the whole region should be free of all forms, all types of mass destructive weapons, and nuclear or non-nuclear, whether it is Iran or Israel. So this doesn't mean, since that Israel has, Iran would come up with something and others also.
Where is the battle today between the forces of extremism and the forces of moderation?
I think this question you could have asked it to the previous administration. The previous administration, with the politics that they have, which is combating terrorism, terrorism was multiplied tens of times. And the terrorist force is increased. So what happened in Iraq? Iraq was distracted. Afghanistan, it was difficult to control Afghanistan. I'm saying to you, frankly, Afghanistan is a very mountainous area and tunnels area, and whatever you do, you cannot get into anything. Afghanistan has a specific way, should have a specific way to deal with them. We used to deal with them before these wars. They have certain style, how to handle them. You see the clans and the tribes, you see the heads of tribes. and try to talk to these people, do some development for them. You can save the money you spend through attacks. The Russians had said that. They were 8 years bombing Afghanistan, and they have no success. I think the optimal solution is to have development in Afghanistan and discussing matters with the heads of tribes and clans. This might save you a lot of the bloodshed that happens every day there.
Let me come back to Arab-Palestinian and Israeli-Palestinian. The Arab initiative is considered to be a bargaining position.
The Arab initiative is very clear. If Israel has solved the problems between them and the Palestinians and two states are established, Israel with Palestine, two states, I think Arabs can have normal relations with Israel.
Settlements have to stop.
I have another point of view. And instead of stopping more settlements, and we heard this many times now for over 10 years and never come to a stop, what I can say is that we have to consider the whole issue holistically, to negotiate on the final resolution. They wanted to have some temporary or final solutions. I said, forget about temporary, because the peoples will think that this is the final step. My point of view is that, you see, the final solution, the same happened with us, the same we did. So we have an agreement for final resolution, and they left Sinai on stages. If we can do this with Palestinians, I think this would be a very good sign.
And what's necessary to do it? What has to happen to make the agreement, to create a Palestinian state that Israel feels secure, so that there will not be Hamas or someone else on the West Bank able to lob missiles into the Israeli International Airport?
Look, the issue how to come to this agreement. We are working on this resolution between Hamas and the Palestinian Authority. If we can come to a conclusion, especially if the external interference would stop, we can convince the Palestinian Authority to sit for negotiation with the Israeli Prime Minister without preconditions on both sides of the parties, and then all of us would assist in this. This is the optimal solution.
What progress have you made in leading the way to get $5 billion reconstruction going to Gaza?
No one have received any money so far. We had a conference, and we agreed on $5 billion, but until now, who is going to receive this amount of money? So one entity should take it and spend them. So we need a committee to agree on a committee to reconstruct Gaza using these funds. It's not to be given to Hamas, or to be given to the authority as well.
You believe that until Hamas and Fatah can agree, there can be no peace?
This is correct. And we are working on this, and we exert laborious efforts in order to have some convergence. There's still some minor points we try to overcome between Hamas and Fatah. And if we reach this point, I think after that the process will go much easier.
Benjamin Netanyahu, the Prime Minister of Israel, talked with you this week. So what's the conversation about? What are you talking about?
So we are talking about how to sit together and negotiate on solving these problems. Is it final borderlines or temporary ones? And there is some sort of agreement between me and Netanyahu, and Mubarak also agreed on that we come to the final solution and the implementation on stages. It should be, of course, a very tough negotiation, but this is better.
I have asked you this before. Do you believe Benjamin Netanyahu, the Prime Minister of Israel, is prepared to see a state of Palestine? Is he ready?
I tell you something, you ask me a tricky question to understand. I read in the Israeli press, they say that the father of Netanyahu said, I will not allow a state. I think you should have read this, a Palestinian state. But this might be something that is inserted in this. Without establishment of Palestinian state, no stability will be achieved and will be continued with these rockets and this violence, and the region will never be calm. I think now it is the right time that we should achieve a resolution. Netanyahu, when he formed his government and had the approval from the Knesset, phoned me. And he had next to him the Minister of Trade. He told me,
this government will be a government for peace. On the basis...
Is he prepared to take a risk for peace?
I think you should take the risk.
And what risk are you prepared to take?
Yeah? No?
Yes? What are you prepared to give, to create, contribute to peace between the Palestinians and the Israelis?
We are working on this. We are very keen that there should be stability, and no stability will be unless we have the Palestinians. They solve their inner problems and they sit for negotiation with the Israelis, and will assist also as regarding the meeting between the Palestinian Authority with the Israeli government. Or do you mean something else?
No, I did. I meant exactly that. There is some who suggest there ought to be a Syrian track. A Syrian track. Go to Damascus. That's where you start, because they have influence with Hamas.
I don't want to talk about Syria. Despite the fact there are some problems with them, but it is an Arab state and a friendly state. But they cannot stop. They can impede, maybe through interference by Iran, because the head of the political office is in Damascus. But the people, they are looking for peace. Even people in Gaza, they want peace. And if the people wanted to have peace, nothing can stop it. When there was the military attacks on Gaza, many people were killed and many buildings were destructed, were so much impacted with this because of the border lines with us, and people want to live and use their life. And I called the Minister of Defense and we called for stopping this, and we invited the Prime Minister of UK and the President of France, and they were with us in this initiative with Merkel, and this was stopped, this fight stopped because people want to live in peace.
What role is Qatar playing? Qatar, the Emir, where Al Jazeera comes from.
So don't get me into trouble.
No one's. Tell me what you think. Qatar.
Qatar can play a good role.
Are they playing a good role? Are they playing a good role?
If they want.
But they're not now.
I cannot say for sure because there's nothing clear before me to decide.
They want to play a role.
Okay, let's they play a role. And they can play a good role for the sake of peace. We'll clap hands for him. We want peace. You did, I did, anyone. It is not the point, but peace is that matters.
The role of women in the Middle East going to change? Is it changing in Egypt? The role of women.
Yes, Salam.
Don't you know that the role of women has changed? We amended the Constitution for the sake of women. This is one of the main points of amendment for women in the parliament. We have, I think, the exact number of parliament women. We have women, presidents of universities. In Alexandria, first time in Alexandria University, the president of the university is a woman. We have female ministers and professors and deans of different faculties and colleges. Now, women is working in the political field. We have a large number of them in our party. So the role of women has changed radically, especially in our country, in Egypt. And the Constitution gives a right for women to certain candidates will be capable for running for the election of the parliament.
Let me make the number of points I want to make here. One, you've had emergency rule since 1981. Emergency rule. You should be confident enough in your leadership not to have to...
You do not grasp fully the emergency law. It has been there since the days of the British occupation, and it used to be called martial law. We confine our recourse to the emergency law to terrorist crimes. Otherwise, it is the rule of law under the normal laws through the parquet and the courts of law. But do not believe what you say. We have demonstrations held there. But if you go to the letter of the emergency law, nobody would hold a demonstration. And this emergency law was agreed upon by the majority.
But is it still necessary?
Represented in the parliament. It might be the Muslim Brotherhood that are against that. Let me complete. We have two choices. Either to issue a law to combat terrorism, which will be a permanent law. It was refused because nobody wanted a permanent law. And the second choice is an emergency law that will be used exclusively against terrorist crimes. We have not used it, for instance, to close down a newspaper or to contain or limit any movement, any freedom of movement. Any other argument is baseless.
Okay. Do you believe the Muslim Brotherhood is good for Egypt?
Good or bad,
as long as they do not commit any terrorist crimes, I don't care.
You don't care?
Read history, please. Read history, please. History is there to read.
The history of Egypt for the last 28 years is the history of one man, Hosni Mubarak. That's the history of Egypt. What is your legacy? What are you proud of? What will they say about you when you leave?
What I will leave behind is that I have been working in public service for 60 years. I took part, I saw action. I rebuilt the country after military action. We revamped the entire infrastructure of Egypt. We are improving education. We are expanding education. We are building universities. We are doing many, many other things.
Would Egypt be safe if you left?
Very safe. مصر دولة كبيرة.
Egypt is a large country. Egypt has a constitution, and the constitution sets clear the role of each and everybody, and nobody can violate the constitution. But if Egypt were a one-man, as you say, or as it is said, I wouldn't have done anything. I work with the help of institutions, with the help of parliament. The parliament is quite strong now. It can sack a government. It can bring down a government losing the vote of confidence. It can change the budget the way they decide, the way the parliament decides. We have amended 34 articles in the Constitution. This is unprecedented.
Mr. President, with respect, many people say that there will not be a leader of Egypt who is not acceptable to the army, as you have been, as Anwar Sadat was, as Nasser was, all of the same tradition, the free officers' tradition. That has not changed in Egypt. You know that, I know that.
It might change afterwards. This might change afterwards. Nobody knows who would succeed. We have elections. When the time comes for election, the people will vote. Nasser was an army officer. Sadat was an army officer. I stayed in the army, and the armed forces till I reached the highest rank. And I saw action in October. And I was decorated at the highest level. It is not a minus point to become president. I served as vice president, doing lots of efforts for 6 years as vice president. Then I took over as president.
But that's my point, is that there is no one going to become president of Egypt who's not acceptable to the military.
No. I don't agree to this statement.
Fair. Many people now write, The Economist magazine, that there is a new future for the Arab world. Egypt is the leader of the Arab world, along with Saudi Arabia and other countries. Tell me how you see that, the future for the Arab world. Because some say, that Egypt and others are more modern, more engaged, more entrepreneurial, and more free. That's the future.
More free.
More free. An awakening.
This is right. This is a valid statement. Yes, there is a very big awakening in the Arab region. And there are new generations, and there is new blood in the public service. And there is quite a change undergoing in the Arab world.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Pleasure.